talk about mommy issues. And I recently just watched Lunel's episode with her daughter on Fix My Life. And it really had me thinking about my own personal mommy issues, as people like to call it. I know a lot of people, they love just talking strictly about daddy issues, but mommy issues definitely exist. um, I know growing up, I'm an only child. I'm my mother's only child. She had me when she was very young. She was, I believe, 15 or 16 years old when she had me. So she was a teen mom. Um, Unfortunately, her and my father did not work out. I never really asked about it because I just like, okay, like, it ain't my business. I honestly really don't care to know. But they didn't work out. But I do know, I guess they were in a relationship when I was conceived, and they broke up a year or so after I was born. I don't know. I'm not sure. They were kids, so I don't know. They probably trying to play house or something. But I was just thinking about how growing up, I had so much just resentment, so much anger, and so much aggression towards my mom because I just felt like not that she didn't want me, but I just felt like she didn't too much care for me. I watched her pretty much just like work. She was just always at work. She was always at work. Um, she worked so many jobs. As far as I can remember, she was always at work. She raised me with the help of her parents. And I'm so grateful for that because they definitely gave me, showed me, and exposed me to what a traditional marriage and household looks like. With the man working, the mom staying home and taking care of the family and the household, and the man just being a provider and protector. Like, they just showed me the epitome of what a traditional relationship, a traditional marriage is. And I'm forever grateful for that. I loved being able to grow up and experience something like that. But I want to say I probably got around like 8, 9 years old, and I just really started to notice how absent my mother was. Um, I would always, at that point, I don't know, she had to be like 20, in her early 20s, like, she had to be 23, 24, something like that, in her early mid 20s. And I just noticed her absence, and it started to bother me at this point because I'm getting older. I'm growing up. I'm becoming and getting into like my tween years, and I'm wanting to spend more time with my mom. I want my mom around more, and of course, she had moved out, and she was living in her own place, and I chose to stay behind with my grandparents just because that's where I was most comfortable at. That's what I was used to. I had cousins there that were there all the time. So me being an only child living with my mom, while it was cool and it was fun, I would just be really, really lonely. Like I said, she worked a lot. So I would always just, I would, call her. I would never call her at work, but I would like call her. I would know her work schedule, know when she got off work, know when she was going to get off, and I would just always call her and want her to, come by, come over and see me, come spend the day with me. Let's go do this. Let's go out to eat. Let's go to the store. Just any. I didn't honestly. She didn't have to take me nowhere. I just really wanted her. I just wanted her presence, and it would, she would be, I'm tired, or okay, I'll stop by, and sometimes she wouldn't stop by, and I mean, that just really started to piss me off as I got older. I won't even lie, like, I just really started to become a very just mean little girl. Like, I mean, like, I don't want to say like I was like a little Angelica. I was like a little Angelica Pickles, but not to the extreme. But I was mean because I was hurt. I felt abandoned, and that's just how I felt. That's not what it was. When I got older, I realized that. But back then, I felt abandoned. I felt like, why does she not want to spend time with me? She's a mom. She has kids. Like, how dare she have a life outside of me? Like, that's kind of like how I thought. Being that young, and as I got older, as I got into my teen years, it didn't do anything but get worse. It made my attitude towards her worse. Now, I never once disrespected her by, I never raised my voice at her, called her out her name. The most, I wasn't that bold. I wasn't that bold. I was never that bold. The most I would probably do is like, if we were on the phone and I asked her to come over, asked her was she stopping by, or could we do this that day or do this that day, and she was like, no, da da da. I would just hang up on her. That was my height of disrespect towards her. I never went beyond that. I never once tried to call myself raising my hand at her. I didn't do any of that. I would just hang up on her. Period. And I would refuse to talk to her. If she tried to call back, I just would refuse to talk to her. And I did not understand it. I'm just like, you only got one kid. Like, you only got one job. How is it? Why is it this hard for you to spend time with me? Now, my mom, she spoiled me. I got whatever I wanted, anything I asked for. She had no problem. She definitely provided for me. She had no problem, spending money on me, giving me money, making sure I had everything I wanted, everything I needed. There was never there was never anything that I lacked in that department. She made sure I was good, but that didn't matter to me. I wanted her time. I wanted her attention. I wanted her presence. The material things were cool. As a kid, yeah, I get the latest shoes. I get the latest whatever. I'm happy, but it's not. It doesn't replace her. It doesn't replace her. It doesn't fulfill me in the way that her presence and her voice and all of that would. So I was still just upset. I was still just mad. And I'm pretty sure she was just like, girl, what is wrong with this girl? Like, what is wrong with her? But as I got older and had more resentment, I started to shut down. And I got to the point where I really didn't care to have a relationship with her. I just kind of looked at it kind of like, well, I'll come to her and talk to her when I need something or when I want something, but anything outside of that, I'm straight. I don't care about. And that's something I hated that it got to that, but in my mind, that was my way of protecting myself from being, let down by her, being disappointed. I just looked at it like, I'ma just use her for, my wants and my needs, because apparently that's all she wants to give me. That's all she wants to provide for me, and that was never the case. But it got to the point where she was attempting to try to rebuild our relationship, to try to, reconstruct and just revamp our mother-daughter relationship, and it was me that was preventing her from doing that, because I had grown to a point where I did not care to have a personal relationship with her. I just wanted to have like just that, like just that's my provider until I'm old enough to provide for myself, until I'm capable of providing for myself. And she just, I don't know. I could tell she was trying, and she did not understand why I had so much anger and aggression towards her. And I honestly feel like she really, didn't think she did anything to make me feel any type of way. She felt like, I've done nothing but work. I took care of her. I've provided for her. What am I missing? You know, and because I wasn't speaking, clearly she couldn't know what was really bothering me. But I would never lie and say she didn't try to make things right. She didn't try to talk to me, because she definitely did, and it was me that was preventing us from rebuilding that relationship. Which now, me being an adult and me being a mother myself, our relationship is completely different, because I understand more. I can look back and I can understand, how she was, how things, were, how it is, to be a young parent, especially a single parent on top of that. Um, so it was just, it was a matter of me growing up and becoming an adult myself and becoming a mother myself to really understand and know where she was coming from. I honestly feel like the issues that I had with my mother growing up was part of the reason why I wasn't as affectionate towards other people, especially in my relationships. I honestly do feel like that played a really, really, really big role. And that until this day, I'm still not very affectionate. It's definitely something that I'm working on, but I now can look back and say it probably stemmed from the issues that I had with my mom, because I wasn't very affectionate towards her. It's not that she wasn't affectionate towards me, but I wasn't receptive of any of her affection because I didn't have a hate for her, but I had developed such a strong just dislike for her that I would just cut off any type of affection or anything like that from her. But when I became a mother myself, I truly understood how difficult it must have been for her. And then it wasn't until I think I was probably about 20, 21 years old, and I had moved out on my own for the very first time, and I really just kind of saw just and understood and could only imagine how difficult it must have been for her to not only be a mom but a teen mom. She was a young mom, and I'm thinking about how my life is at this point. I'm like 20, 21. I don't have any kids or anything like that, but I'm getting a taste of adulthood, and I'm like, whew, these bills. And oh my God, working. And I found myself at times working 2 or 3 jobs. Now, for me, it wasn't because I had to, it was because I wanted to, because I had the time and I didn't have any kids, so I really didn't have any restrictions. So I didn't mind doing it. But then I really started to think, like, dag, like, I can only imagine being my age with these responsibilities and then throw a child in the mix. But imagine being 15, 16, like, and having a whole another child, having a whole person, a little human that you're responsible for, that you have to take care of. And you're still a kid yourself. You're still growing and developing and learning about life yourself. And now you're responsible for another life. It's all on you. And I just thought about how difficult that must have been to try to balance that, to try to balance being a kid and growing up and trying to go through, all the growing pains of being a teenager, all while being a parent, all while being a mother. And essentially, you're parenting alone. I mean, you have the help of your parents, but ultimately, it's a one person job. It's like a one man job, when it comes to actually being the parent. And I started really thinking, I was thinking about like just how mean I was to her at times, like when I was a teenager and growing up, and all the resentment and just all the dislike and aggression and anger I had towards her because I felt like she didn't do a good job. I felt like she wasn't a good mom. And I can look back now and say she was a phenomenal mother. She's a great mother still to this day. But back then, I was young, I was inexperienced. I didn't know any better. I'm just going off what I think. Like I said, it was how dare you try to have a life outside of me? Like, you're a mom. Like, it needs to be about me. And that's not the case. That's very unhealthy for somebody to think that, for you to not have an identity outside of being a mother. It's unhealthy. And it can take a toll on you mentally and emotionally. And your kids will start to feel that. And I really had to sit and think to myself, imagine being 15, 16 years old with a 1 or 2 year old child. Imagine being at the age that I was then, which was 20, 21 years old, and you have like what the kid should be about 7, 8, something like that, like a little less than 10 years old. And I had to ask myself, what would I have done differently? What could I have possibly done that was better than what she did for me? What do I think I could have done better as a 15, 16-year-old mother? How well would I have been able to balance being a mom, having to work, having to go to school, having to make all these decisions, not only for myself, but for now my child, having to work, having to basically grow up with my child? Because I'm a kid myself, I'm a child myself. I had to ask myself that, what would I have done better? Me, while I'm being hard on her and almost tearing her down for the type of mother I felt like she wasn't, I never did take into consideration her age. I never did take into consideration the fact that outside of her parents, she was doing it alone. I didn't think any of that. I didn't see her as anything but a mother. I didn't see her as anything but my mom. I didn't see her as a teenager. I didn't see her as a young adult who was probably wanting to just do young adult things, who was probably just wanting to experience living on her own and travel maybe and hanging out with her friends and having girls' night, ladies' night, being in a relationship. And I didn't consider any of that because I only saw her as a parent. I didn't see her as a woman. I didn't see her as anything else but mom. That's all she was to me. I couldn't even picture her as anything else. And it's so crazy to me now that I think about it, me being a mom myself, and I'm starting to realize myself how important me time is, how important it is, and how healthy and how okay it is to have what they call breaks from your kids, to make time for yourself, to go out and hang out with other adults, to go out and hang out with your friends, to have a night where maybe the kids are with grandma or the kids are with the other parent and you get to enjoy just a night to yourself for once. I now understand how okay that is. And in turn, how healthy that is mentally for a parent. And then I thought about, like, man, like, how did she do it? Like, honestly, how did she do it? How did she work all those jobs? Now I'm thinking back to how angry and upset I used to be because she would be tired from work and she would be, she would just want to go to get off work and go. But I know you're a parent. Your job as a parent doesn't stop. But I didn't. I look back and I'm just like, she was only human. She was working to make sure I had the luxury of having whatever I wanted and I needed. Honestly, she was doing the best that she could given her situation. She was doing the best that she could given the resources and tools and support that she had. And I have to always ask myself, what would you have done differently? What would you have done better? Since you feel like she didn't do enough, since you feel like she could have done better, what would you have done differently in her situation, in her shoes? And I can't say because I was fortunate enough to never put myself in that position, to make that type of decision, to have that type of reality. And unfortunately, she did. And compared to some other women who were young mothers and teen mothers, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of phenomenal young moms. But compared to some, she did a pretty good job. She did a great job with raising me because I turned out fine. A lot of people, they love to place these statistics, these stereotypes and stuff on children of teen mothers. Oh, they're going to become one themselves. I made it a point not to. I made it a point to, nope, I'm not going to be a teen mother. I'm going to enjoy my youth. I'm going to enjoy my prime. I didn't have my first child until I was married and I was like 20. I was 24 years old and married when I had my first child. And I had my second child until I was 28. It doesn't matter what age you are. Honestly, you're never prepared for a child. And you can try to physically, materialistically prepare for a child as much as possible, but you can never mentally prepare for a child. I don't care what you do. because you really don't know until you're experiencing that, until you're in that position. And it took me until, like I said, I was about 21, 20, 21 years old to really start to question my firm thoughts that I used to have concerning my mother's parenting. I never once took into account her age. I never once took into account the fact that she did it alone. I never once took into account her mental state. Who knows? Maybe her, not being, now I ain't gonna say not being around because she was around. If I didn't see her every day, I saw her every other day. I saw her multiple times throughout the week. It wasn't like she would just go weeks without seeing me or talking to me. It's just that I was so demanding of her time and of her attention and of her presence that I wanted her to be around every single day. I felt like in my mind there was no reason why. I felt like, who is she to want to try to have a break from me? Like, it's just me. It shouldn't be that hard. And it's hard with one kid. So I can imagine people that's trying to do all this with more than one. But now, being a mom myself, I understand and I get it now. And I've let go of that hurt and those feelings that I had, because I realized, I'm not gonna say the feelings that I had were wrong, but they were based off beliefs that honestly were extremely illogical. Like, they were just not logical. They were not rational. They were the beliefs of a child, of a young person, an inexperienced young person that really didn't know any better. And I had convinced myself that how I was feeling was law. Like, nope, this is right. Like, you supposed to just only, your life needs to revolve around me. You don't have me time. You don't get to have time to yourself. When you become a parent, you dedicate your life to that child. And in a sense you do, but you also have to take care of yourself first. You have to still make yourself a priority, because if you're not all in, if you're not 100%, if you're not happy, there's absolutely no way you can be the mother, the woman, the person, the parent that you need to be to your child. You cannot be a healthy like support system, a healthy go-to person, a healthy provider, a healthy caregiver to your children if mentally you're disturbed, if emotionally, spiritually you're disturbed and you're out of whack. You just can't. And I understand that importance now, so I learned to release all those feelings and let all that go, because now I have my own story. I have my own, children. I have my own little family. So now I completely get it. She did the best that she could. She did a great job. She did what she was supposed to do. We're going to always find things that we feel like our parents could have done better. And now that I'm older, I realize maybe that what she gave me, how she raised me, how she parented me, maybe that was her better. That was, better for her. Maybe in her mind, she felt like she was doing something for me that maybe she didn't get from her parents. Or she was providing for me in a way that she felt like she didn't get from her parents. So I really had to take all of that into account. And I see too many times where I always tell people, your kids don't care about materialistic things. They don't care about getting the latest shoes, the latest clothes, the latest, yeah, that stuff makes them happy, but it will never, ever, ever replace your time, your attention, your presence. When a child gets older, they're not going to think back to, oh, yeah, I remember my mama got me that PS5. No, they're going to think back to, my mom or my dad wasn't there when I cheered in my very first game. My mom or my dad wasn't there when I performed in my very first school play. My mom or my dad wasn't there when I sang in the choir at church. Like, it's little things like that. It's things like that, like moments in a child's life, precious moments first, that really stick with the child. They look for you to be there. Yeah, they love the providing, they love the game systems and the shoes and the clothes and the money and all of that and the gifts and everything like that. But in the end of the day, they're gonna remember when you weren't there, not what you did for them. Because I know how that feels, and that's something that I never ever ever wanted, and I never want, and I pray that my children never will have to feel that. Because I know what it's like to feel like your parent is prioritizing every someone else or prioritizing everything else but you, especially when you're a child, because you don't truly understand. But in your mind, as a kid, all you see is they're not here. They're never there. They're never there when I want them to be. Yeah, they come around and they give me money and they give me gifts, or they throw me big lavish birthday parties, or we do this and they do that. But when it matters most, the things that matters most to me in my life, attending my basketball games, attending my cheer tournaments, attending my plays, hanging out with me just randomly, just having a day where it's dedicated to just us being a family, us experiencing each other, us enjoying each other's company. They did not give me that. I wanted their time. If I could have given all those gifts back to get time with them, that's what I want. Because you can always give gifts. You can never give time. Like, that's not something that can be bought. You cannot buy time back. You can't go back to your child's graduation that you had to miss because you was at work. And that's one thing that I really had to come to an understanding about too, was work. My mom worked a lot of jobs. She, like I said, she did that to provide for me. But I felt like in my head, it was just a way it was like an escape for me. Like, I just felt like she wanted to work all them jobs because she didn't want to be around me. She wanted to work all them jobs because she didn't want to be around me. She don't have to deal with me. That's why she's trying to work all them jobs. No, she was trying to make ends meet. She was trying to make sure I didn't want or need for anything. She was trying to provide for me, which is what she's supposed to do. But I felt like her job was prioritized over me. And I understand a job is very important, especially when you have children, because you got to take care of your kids. You got to feed your kids. You got to clothe your kids. But some people take it to the extreme. They don't realize you missing out on moments you can't get back. You can always find another job. You can always get on somebody's payroll. You can always get on somebody's clock in, clock out. You can't go back in time to relive or be present for moments that only happen once. And if you miss it, you miss it. That's one thing I've been firm on, becoming a mother myself. While I know how to land a job and maintain a job and provide for my children always come first. I always, 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 I don't care what, they come first. Every decision I make is with them in mind, and a job is no different. If a job cannot accommodate me when it comes to my children's schedules, especially when it deals with medical things, I will quit. And I will quit with a smile. I have no problem, because one thing about me, I know how to make some money. If I can't get a traditional 9 to 5, I know legal ways, little side hustles, little odd jobs. I know ways to come up with some money. I will never sit here and prioritize a job that is not going to ever be loyal to me. I'm not going to prioritize them over my children. My children are always going to be first. Because like I said, I know firsthand what it feels like to believe with everything in you that you are coming second or coming last in your parents' life. When you should always feel like you coming first. And that's something that I practice. I feel like the mistakes that I feel like my mother made, because the mistakes I feel like she may not look at them as mistakes. She may look at them as like, no, I did what I had to do. That wasn't a mistake. That was intentional. And I may look at it like, no, these are mistakes. But the mistakes I feel like she made helped me to become a better mother. It helped me to know what I did not want to do or what I wanted to improve on. Or it was something she showed me. I learned from her by the way she treated me, by the things that she did for me, by, just the love that she showed me that I wanted to emulate when it came to me being a mom. But one thing that I had to learn how to do was take a step back, really reevaluate and reassess my anger towards my mother, try to dig deep into why I felt the way that I felt about the mistakes that I personally feel like she made when it came to being a parent to me. And I had to ask myself, what would you have done better? What would you have done differently? Are you doing these same things with your kids? Are you following in your mother's footsteps unintentionally, unknowingly? Or are you realizing sometimes this is just a part of being a parent? Sometimes you have to miss out on things. Sometimes you can't be there because you have to make sure you're still in a position to provide for your children. Because at the end of the day, if you're not able to take care of them, I mean, who is? Who will? Who wants to? And once I learned that for myself, and like I said, the icing on the cake was becoming a parent myself so that I could truly understand within my own situation probably how my mother was feeling and maybe why she made some of the decisions that she made when it came to parenting. That really helped me work through any and all mommy issues that I had.